Well, welcome to tonight's presentation of The Rite. With Anthony Hopkins, we're about to review the actual facts from fiction, so I hope if you're not squeamish, you're going to join us. Sit back and relax. I hope you've got your popcorn, but we are going to get ourselves started now. Hello, I'm your hostess, everyone. My name is Farrah Rose. I go by Sister Farrah. I'm a professed religious Franciscan. I operate in the realm of deliverance, exorcism, and healing. And my specialty is religious demonology, cults, and the dark stuff in life. Here we are presenting for you the opportunity to view certain movies, certain aspects of our culture in a lens that is somewhat different than people actually get to normally be exposed to. And this was a special request from one of my Patreon viewers, which if you are not a Patreon subscribers, you may want to consider, because I have some interesting information that's going to be coming up, exclusive information. And if you'd like to support the channel like Ashley just did, there's super chats, there is direct donation, or you know what, just mail me some stamps, because I'm always sending out free stuff all over. As we get into this movie, The Rite, there will be some topics that may or may not be suitable for anyone under 18 years of age. All right. So if they do not have a working knowledge of certain things in exorcism or possession, you may want to get them out of the room. Before we start, as always, we start with a St. Michael prayer, and then I'm going to say hello to everyone. So let's get prayed up and get ready to go. In nomine Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sanctus, sic erat in principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. Sancta Michael Arcangele, defende nos in prelio, contra nequitiam et insidiis diaboli esto presidium. Imperit ille Deus, supplices te peccamur tuque, Princeps militia celestis, Satan maliosque spiritus malignos, qui ad petitionem animarum pervegantur in mundo divina virtute, in infernum detrude. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm hoping you're going to love this show, because I'm absolutely loving this series. It gives me an opportunity to, kind of stretch my legs and offer some of the experience and the knowledge that I've gained in working with cases over the years by applying what I know to the evidences of some of these fabulous movies that do offer a hint of truth, but a lot of fiction. So before I get started, I'm just dying to say hello to everyone in the room. Sean is with us tonight, and I see Vanna. Hey, Vanna, good to see you. Ashley, thank you so much for your donation. Sean, thanks for the baked goods. I can't wait to tell your mom thank you. Mike is moderating. If you have a question, please hit him up with any of your questions. Remind him at the end so that I can address them directly. Thank you so much, Athena, for being here, and Rosalie. I am really looking forward to tonight's show. And Russ, you made it too. I hope Dad's in the room. As we get started tonight with this, Lori made it too, my other moderator. Thank you. As we get started tonight, I really want to tell you that this movie, although it was old, and this came out in 2011, this was one of the very few movies that the Catholic reviewing agency said was worth seeing. Now, this is really rare. Most of the movies that I am going to share with you in this series, Can Demons Do That?, I will not recommend you see. However, if you are not squeamish, if you don't get upset when somebody is puking their guts out, this movie is, it gives you a very interesting perspective. Even though it's classified as horror, it gives you an interesting perspective on the operations of what a priest will go through when they train to become exorcists, and how they apprentice under other exorcists. That said, we are going to get started. The movie opens up. This is a movie. Actually, it's loosely based on the book, the movie about Father Gary Thomas and how he became an exorcist. Father Gary Thomas is a well-known exorcist. He has a heart of gold. He has a great sense of humor. And I have been blessed to speak to him on numerous occasions and interviewed him. There is an interview on this channel. And as I remind you, there's so many other videos. Please, if you get something out of this, can you please give it a thumbs up, like it, because it pops it up higher in the algorithm. And if you could leave me a comment, that does too. Can you believe it? More people will see it. This movie begins, you see I have the poster up here, which has some really specific images, and I will not show anything too graphic. Nothing too graphic is allowed here. And oh my gosh, Mr. Bacon the cat just said hi to me. So meow meow. Hello, little cat. Sorry, you're going to hear me do that. That's what I do on these shows. So when we open up and we are looking at the first scene of the movie, you're going to hear a voice say, "Do you believe in sin?" I totally forgot that. The first time I saw this movie, I don't even remember hearing that. Do you believe in sin? I think that initial sentence right there sums up the entirety of your experience in this movie. Because if you don't believe in sin, it's kind of hard to extend your belief factor into what you're about to see in this movie. And then the next voice, an eerie, eerie voice, says, "There is nothing to believe in." That was like, woo, got the chills. We knew that was not a good thing. We are looking at the life of a young man that is debating whether he should be a mortician or a priest. And this young man is Father Gary Thomas. His name is Michael in the movie. And Michael is a young man. He has a girlfriend. He has friends. His life has been, shall we say, pretty normal. For the most part, he's a normal young man. He knows he has to be a mortician or he has to be a priest. So he decides he doesn't want to be a mortician. He's going to join the priesthood. He tells his friends they're not too happy about it. His girlfriend at the bar that, he says goodbye to before he heads to seminary, tells the boys on the back porch, drink up, lickety split. And this will be important later in the movie. He's a sensitive man. And as Michael, this young priest, goes throughout the movie, you're going to get flashbacks of his past and some of the things that have affected him to make him make the choice of seminary as he did. It wasn't so much that he had a desire to be a priest, but the movie hints that he wanted to escape being a mortician. And why? I mean, he was raised since he was a young man around, dead bodies, watching his father. And I really have to interject here. A lot of people are scared of morticians or funerals or dead bodies. It has been my experience in helping with, hey, Colin, good to see you, in working with a couple of dead bodies due to the fact that I was a professional makeup artist. This is a gift that a mortician does for the body to be beautiful, for the family to be buried with such dignity. And for some reason or another, Michael, the young priest, doesn't really want to do that because the movie shows flashes of his father fixing his mother's fingernails. We find out that his mother committed suicide, which is terribly sad because suicide is horrible. And I know some people are shall we say, very sensitive to the fact that other people could possibly, think of taking their lives. And in this thematic part that drove Michael into seeking the priesthood, you can tell there's a wound there. And why do I mention this wound? There's a reason. When we take a look at the potential that Michael has in serving God through the ministry of being a funeral director, being a mortician, he's hesitant because of this wound of losing his mother, because of seeing his father prepare his mother with a love and a gentleness and a tenderness that he was so loving. And Michael was just in shock. He was so very young. And I think that when we look at choices in our lives, we have to understand that those choices are really colored by some of our earliest memories. And here in this top left, we see the father, the mortician, gently scraping, and he was going to begin to paint the mother's fingernails. And the son was very, he was just so in shock, he couldn't even believe what he was seeing. And in below center, we have Michael at seminary. He actually did get accepted. He's a brilliant young man. He got accepted, and just about as he's ready to graduate, he has been diaconated. Diaconated is a step where they become a deacon before they take their final vows as a priest. And he's presented. This was his basic, shall we say, dean of students that he was under authority to. So in his search to get away from this pain and trauma of childhood, he runs to seminary, and he's got himself a whole nother bag of tricks, because this guy has something exciting for him. Michael, in the final minutes, days, decides he's going to resign. He throws his theology right out the window and gets confronted by his dean and says, you've got perfect scores. Why'd you fail in theology? And Michael says, I can't do it. So guess what? He pulls out the old, well, if you don't do it, you get to pay. He explains to Michael that according to the grants that they give to incoming seminarians, if you decide to leave seminary and not graduate, you will owe over, $100,000 plus. And that's a little hard pill to swallow. So it's just, it's kind of crazy. But from the dean's perspective, he knows Michael has it. Michael has it to be a really good priest. And Michael has that trauma within him. He has, shall we say, not only does he have the desire to run from this pain, he doesn't really know what he wants to do. And he tells the dean, I don't know what I believe in. I don't know what I can do. So he gives him an option. He says, you know what? I want to send you to Rome, and I want you to meet a priest there. I want you to go take a class in exorcism. And he says, why? I don't really believe in anything. He says, well, I just want you to go. It's a free vacation. And then after that, what's going to happen? And this is the interesting thing, that Michael, if we look at religious demonology, if we look at how angels work, the entire scope of Michael's life, even as presented in the movie, shows the trauma wound that he had as a child. And as much as I call them, the little minions, the demons, the cockroaches that were trying to get him away from his calling to serve, his guardian angel was right there, trying to pick him up every other minute, every other time. So this offer to go to the Vatican and take this class was mind-blowing. He was just like, well, I don't believe. I guess I'll go try it. I get a free vacation, right? And that was the interesting thing. This was the opening. And he doesn't know if he wants to be a priest. So the night that he's thinking about it, he's walking around, pouring rain. This is Michael walking around in the pouring rain. And he's coming back to his room. He wants to resign. And his dean calls out to him and starts stepping off a sidewalk. Michael is walking in the rain. This scene really, really, really got it. Okay. This just nailed it right there. Michael is in just regular black clothing because he's just a deacon, and he is walking in the driving rain. The dean walks off. A bicyclist, to swerve the dean from hitting the dean, goes in front of a truck, and this car is coming 40, 50 miles an hour right between Michael and the dean. She's laying there, and it's obviously she's been hit so bad she's about to die. So I think that this was the crucible that said, what are you going to do, Michael? What are you going to do? Michael looked at his priest. His priest is laying there. He can't stand up. He can't get over to the girl. And he looks at the girl. And so he goes immediately to the dean, looks at him, sees that he's okay, and he starts screaming, somebody call EMS. He goes over to this girl. She's a student. She's a student just like him. And she says, bless me, Father. And he's like, he's not a priest yet. However, you know what not a lot of people do not know is that it's part a deacon can bless. And this is the cool thing, is that he was in a situation that was almost demonic he wanted to get away from the priesthood, but also angelic in the sense that he had the opportunity to do what he was called to do. And he stepped up to the plate and he walked over to the girl and he blessed her. And he said, what is your name? He asked her name. He held her hand. He blessed her and he gave her last rites. I mean, I'm sorry, but that made me cry. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. And he's like, okay, I guess that's it. The next day he meets with his dean and he says, well, all right, it looks like I'm off to Rome. I'm off to Rome. And he was so excited. He was so excited because he's like, all right, I get a vacation. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go have fun. Now, in Rome, this is the exciting thing because, as I was saying, we want to parse out fact from fiction. And you know, the fact here was that this is true. Seminarians, if you go and you decide you're not going to do it, you have a heck of a bill if you've gone on a grant or a scholarship. And what it is, it's not easy. Seminary school is not easy. It's a lot of long hours, and sometimes the theology is pretty crazy, and they don't get a lot of sleep. And they're constantly putting to work. So in Rome, this really is almost like a vacation. And this scene we're looking at right here is the library. That I didn't put the class up because the images of the class have some very disturbing images, and I will talk about that in a minute. And is everybody good in the chat room? Any questions or anything else? Anybody has any questions, please shoot them at Lori or shoot them at Mike, because, you know, if I'm missing anything, please shoot me a question. Everybody good? It looks good to me. And so we'll continue on. Michael has been enrolled in one of the Vatican's exorcism courses. So he arrives in Rome. He arrives and is checked in to where they would house seminarians, and he gets there late, of course. And because he's American, his instructor's looking at him. It'd be nice if you got here on time. This is where he gets the opportunity to see some of the most, and it was interesting, some of the pictures they showed, because they did show some actual pictures of exorcism. And like I said, if you're a little squeamish, thank you, Colin. Thank you, Athena. Like I said, if you guys have any questions or whatever else, you know, we're talking about exorcism here, Mike. But if anybody's got questions, let me know. The Vatican course on exorcism is very explicit. It does. I haven't taken it yet. Who knows? It could happen. You never know. The scenes that they were showing were a human man whose jaw had literally, during an exorcism, his jaw had dislocated and dropped to his chest. Yes, that happens. They showed a picture of a woman whose face was completely contorted and her skin had changed to where it almost looked like there was lava underneath her skin. Yes, that happens. This is actual documented occurrences that do happen during a possession. It is it's very horrific, and also it's also very boring, because a lot of times there's really not a lot of anything except maybe some shaking, groaning, growling, and maybe some shoving. In this instance where he is watching these images, he's kind of shocked, but he's very, very disbelieving. And this is where he meets a journalist that is watching him, because he's American, which is rare. There's lots of nuns and priests from all over, but he's almost an anomaly. His instructor, this gentleman here in the long white robe, and this guy right here, he's almost like talking as if you went into the Dunkin' Donuts place and he says, would you like chocolate, vanilla? He's very factual. No nonsense. And as he's going through some of the typical behaviors of a possessed person, he gives an outline of people that are either going into possession or are possessed here. And yes, exactly, Colin. It looked like almost like the face had morphed into something different. And then after the possession, the person is completely normal. So it's almost as if it's almost like like either some kind of demonic mask that they're able to contort the bodies that like this temporarily, but it goes back. That's the beautiful thing. So the instructor in this exorcism class is saying that people that are undergoing possession or are already possessed, they withdraw socially from their friends, from their groups. They lack the desire to want to be around anyone. What I found interesting that he described this persistent tremor in a hand, like somebody that has Parkinson's or somebody that has tardive dyskinesia. So this is the importance of making sure that when somebody approaches the Office of Healing, Deliverance, and Exorcism, that they thoroughly are medically okay. They are healthy in every way. And there is no past indicators of major trauma or a history of family incidences of any kind of schizophrenia or depression or anything like that could completely throw the whole direction of the healing and deliverance process. So the tremor in the limb, I do have to say, it's not always present in the possessed. However, during the actual deliverance prayers or the exorcism prayers, usually before or just before the demon will depart, there will be like really crazy jerks, or as it's shown in this movie, just like this constant like picking, like just constant picking. That does happen, but it doesn't happen 24/7. It is not something that you will really like go, oh yeah, this person must be possessed. This does not happen. Okay. So we have a question from chat. I want to make sure I get it, because this movie is jam-packed with truths and a few errors. So I just want to just get them out, because Hollywood's got to put their good stuff. Okay, so Ash has a question. Does God allow things like that to be seen to scare us from staying away from hell? Now, that's a really good question. All right. However, I think that for the most part, Ash, not very, very few people will ever see someone that is possessed. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Dark Waters. God bless you. Thank you so much for blessing this ministry, because I'm hoping it's going to reach just one person, okay? Just one person. So when we talk about God allowing things, there's 3 wills of God, his permissible will, his divine will. When we look at how God works in our life, it's not that he allows us to see scary things to scare us from hell. He allows us to see the reality because we live in a fallen world. And this fallen world is full of dark things. And we have a choice every minute of the day. We either choose, are we going to walk toward God? Are we going to hold Christ's hand and hold our cross? Or are we just going to go, well, I think I'd rather do a line of Coke. I think I'll just have some whiskey and, well, I think it's about time to go hit the bar. I need to get laid. It's just one of those things. We either choose the easy path or we choose the difficult path, okay? Those are the choices. And this is what God allows us to see. I do not believe in accidents. I do not believe that there is anything that we do not see, that we do not touch, that enters our life that's an accident. Because at all times, our beautiful guardian angels are constantly trying to draw us to God. Where the little nasty little cockroach minions, as somebody was talking on a radio show the other night, hey, look over here, look over here. And okay, some people say that I got a squirrel on my shoulder. I call it the evil squirrel, okay? So we do know, Ashley, that God permits evil because 1/3 of all the angels left and followed Satan, and they were cast here. So is God allowing that? For a time. We know the end. Like I always remind everyone, the battle's been won. All right, let me get on it. Oh, hold on a second. Colin has an addition here. Is that like someone who maybe, as Malachi Martin described, perfectly possessed? Oh, that's a really good point. When we look at perfect possession, that is, all right, perfect possession. God bless you, Vanna. Say your prayers before you go night-night, okay? And I'll see you this weekend. Love you, little bestie. Oh, Christian Gaucho, thank you so much. Thank you very much for your donation. I want to address Colin here because this is a good question. And this is very important. It's very germane to the story. Perfect possession is incredibly rare. However, it is getting more common. I must tell you, it's getting way more common. In perfect possession, Colin, what we have is a person that is not only invited something in, they work in tandem with it. They invite spirits to be in their body for whatever they're getting, money, cash, sex, drugs, booze, whatever they're getting directly through allowing the possession. And in a perfect possession, whereas you have I would call it atypical possession, completely different. In the perfect possession, there's like this congruent flow, ebb and flow. The person may act like a complete narcissist one moment, and then the next minute they're going to act like the most holy person you ever saw. Congruent with the fact that their possession and their perfect possession allows them to be 2 people at the same time. So you don't know who you're talking to at any time. That's the interesting thing about perfect possession, is that for the most part, their mask will fall. And I'm going to be covering more of that in my narcissism series. So, please, if you haven't already subscribed, give us a like. Please hit the bell notification so you'll find out when I can get more information to you. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Edgar. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Edgar. One of the most fabulous counselors I know, I have to say. So on perfect possession, what we see is completely different than what we're looking at here in this movie, all right? This movie, The Rite, we are seeing a typical possession. And I'm going to tell you why it's a typical possession. Because it's different because the entrance of the demonic influence came in through a trauma wound. very similar to what Michael experienced as a child. And Athena, I'm so very, very sorry that you had to experience that. That's very, very, very typical. That's very typical language. It's very ugly, and it's very horrible. So back to the movie here. All right, thank you for your questions. Mike or Lori, interrupt me, or send me a little text or whatever. I've got to get back to the movie. We're talking about the Exorcism course. My name is Sister Farrah Rose. Farrah Rose, please help support this channel, support this ministry, so that I can get this truth out there to the average Joe that knows nothing about spiritual warfare, Jesus Christ as our personal Savior, and get on that path to healing. When we're looking at Michael here and how he's doing in the course, he's approached by his instructor that says, your dean contacted me and says, you've got some issues. And Michael's like, what issues? He says, you don't believe. So I've got a priest that's going to show you some proof. And that's what he does. Oh, thank you. Truth versus fact. God bless you. Thank you so much. Oh gosh, you guys, I might start crying. You guys are humbling me so much. Thank you. Michael has no faith. He's being sent to be with a priest so that he can learn directly under an exorcist. And this is how the majority of exorcists are trained. Not all of them. I know so many exorcists here in the United States, they're just dropped right into that office, and they're like, there is a St. Michael Institute here for priests. There are many opportunities, such as the priests that I work with, were sent to St. Louis. So there is a network here that is growing. We are still lacking. When Michael went to this class, at the time, I think there was probably maybe 70 exorcists. Now I think we're up to about 125 maybe. I didn't check statistics, so please don't quote me. I'm not sure about this. We do need more. And I'll tell you why at the end of the movie. So when Michael talks to his instructor and says, okay, I'm getting kicked out of class, he says, yeah, you get a few days off. So Michael is kicked over to Sir Anthony Hopkins, the exorcist. His name is Father Luke in the movie. And this, like I said, this was based loosely on a true story. And this does happen. Because sometimes priests are, they're so pulled in so many different directions. They're expected to do so many things. And when they get back, they're not going to have a lot of time for training. So this was something that his dean saw special in Michael and knew that he had to be there. He had to experience. And I will tell you honestly, in all the priests and all the exorcists and myself, our faith wavers. Oh, God bless you. Thank you, Athena. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. You guys are just like, oh my gosh. I'm going to blush in a minute, you guys. Our faith wavers. We don't always have 100% faith 100% of the day. We question. We cry. We get sad. This show and struggle of the faith, this is something almost all of us go through at one point or another in our lives. And Michael, instead of being disrespectful, he was very, very open about his lack of faith. He was very, well, I'll watch, but, this kind of looks like mental illness to me, even though, he's been in class. So now he begins his work as an exorcist apprentice. Thank you, dear Athena. And I'm going to go to the next slide because we're going to start getting into the scary stuff, peoples. Michael meets Father Lucas. Father Lucas, played by Sir Anthony Hopkins. He did a wonderful role. And his attitude was played perfectly. According to many of the Spanish or Latin priests that I know, they're very matter of fact. They basically, when Michael gets there, he says, get ready, put your stole on. He blesses him, absolves him of his sins, and says, come on in, we're going to start. And that was his first day in Exorcism Class 101, was immediately they had a possessed woman by the name of Rosaria. Okay, Michael, you better take that stuff off. Thank you very much, dear. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Okay, Rosaria is a beautiful young woman. She is 16, and Rosaria is almost 9 months pregnant. She's about 8 months pregnant. And this is the possessed girl. And this is where we're going to talk about typical possession, Colin, because I think this is very, very important here. For his first class, he has to watch Father Lucas, put on his stole, and he hands Michael a book, and he says, pray along with me. Don't look her in the face. Don't talk to it. Don't say anything. Do not engage in conversation. Period. And Father gets a call right in the middle. I mean, they just started. And he's like, pronto. I'm like laughing. He's like taking, Michael's like, what do I do? What do I do? And this is where it gets a little hairy. Because Rosalie is supposed to be strapped to a chair. She is supposed to be holding still. And she's being prayed over, and she's scratching this chair just furiously. And then she starts picking her head furiously. Father's talking to her. And she changes. And she starts contorting, and she starts bowing and growling. And this is something that Michael's never seen. However, this is something new, but not scary. He is assuming that she's mentally ill. She's mentally ill. He's asking Father, because they have to take a break. And they take a break. They go in the other room and take a break. Who's the father of her baby? And he says, I don't know. She hasn't said. And he says, I don't really believe all this stuff. And he says, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? So he says, here, give me something. And Michael hands him a $1 bill, and he puts it in a bag. He said, get in here. So he gives the bag, and he looks at Rosaria and says, he asks her in Italian. He says, what's in the bag? What's in? She's like, no. And she says, what's in the bag? And he yells at her. He says, you tell me. And this is where we knew that in the perfect will of God, this exorcist was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. And he was the one to get rid of this demon out of this woman, because it commanded the demon. Thank you so much, Russell Reynolds. Oh my gosh, thank you, dear. And say hi to Dad for me too. This man, Anthony Hopkins, played, Father Lucas, commanded the demon and said, what is in that bag? And she says, $1 americano. And that's exactly what it was. Michael thought it was a parlor trick. Totally thought it was a parlor trick. Then it gets better. She starts contorting and flips herself out of the chair onto the ground. And Michael's like, wow, this is a great show. And then all of a sudden, he's rubbing her back because she is dry heaving furiously. Just furiously dry heaving. And then all of a sudden, 3 nails come out of her mouth. So let's cover that a little bit, because what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of times exorcism and deliverance is not this dramatic. Usually it's usually prayers, some growling, some anger, some cussing, some, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Sean. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You guys. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Wow. Who knew? I need to do better shows like this, you guys. Thank you. God bless you. Oh my gosh. You guys are so wonderful to me tonight. I apologize if you're just listening to this, because, I've got a lot of action going on here, and I just I'm just, thank you. I'm very humbled to be able to do what I'm doing. In real deliverance, People do cuss, they do scream, they do contort. In possession, you're going to see the severe scratching, the levitation. You're going to see objects coming out of an ear, coming out of a nose, coming out of a mouth. You're going to smell smells like you've never smelled. So they did get this right. They did get it right in the sense that this woman was tormented horribly. She's got a baby in her belly, and we don't know where that baby came from. She has nightmares, and she screams and cusses and does horrible things, and her aunt is there trying to help her get free of this. And Michael's just going, that's a nice sideshow. So Rosario leaves, and he asks him, he says, well, why do you think she swallowed the nails? And Father says, oh, you still don't believe, do you? And he's like, no, I don't believe. He was, God bless me to continue to do his will. This Michael is just so absolutely, there's nothing is going to make him believe. Nothing is going to have him change a course of faith. And this is just so important and germane to the movie. And yes, I have to answer Colin McNamara. Father Gabriel Mo did say and did confirm many times, and he's written about books, all kinds of things come up. They puke out plastic pieces. They puke out nails. They puke out beads. They puke out computer pieces. You'd be surprised the kind of stuff. And these people have never eaten this stuff in their life. There's no explanation. There's no reason why they should have this stuff go on. And in Michael's struggle of faith, he goes back and he wanders around. And this is where he talks to the journalist, and he sees the journalist, and he's having a McDonald's coffee. And she's like, you're in Italy, you're in Rome. You don't have a coffee, you get an espresso. So she takes him to have a good cup of coffee, and she says, I heard that you were assigned to Father Lucas. And how did she know this? Because the nuns told her. Oh, those nuns, they just gossip. They know everything that's going on in that course. They're so cute. And the journalist says, I want an interview with Father Lucas because I hear he's an exorcist and he's the best. And he's like, well, why? Why do you want to talk to him? And she says, well, my brother, I'm kind of afraid to remember, but my brother, he was an institution, and he said horrible things, and he said something was trying to make him do things and said horrible things to him. And she says, I don't know what to believe. Michael says, well, I can't give you access. I can't talk to you, but, I'll think about it. She says, that's all. I just want you to think about it. I just want you to think about it. And it's one of those things that the door was open. The door was open there. So they made that contact. Father Michael, well, he's not a father yet, but, he goes to second day of exorcism class. And he basically has to understand that this is an ongoing thing, a regular thing. So the exorcist, Father Lucas, lights the candle, says the prayers, puts on his stole, and starts reading the rite again. And Michael, before he left the United States, noticed a really strange bracelet on the girl that matched the same exact bracelet that he helped his father dress a mortician. Oh, thank you, Colin. Oh my gosh, God bless you guys. Oh my gosh, you guys are so wonderful. Thank you. Sorry I had to interrupt the program, but I'm getting donations, and I have to just say, God bless you all. Thank you for believing in the Swords of St. Michael. Thank you for encouraging the continued work that I do to help everybody every single day. So, okay, no tears, you guys. So let's get back to the exorcism. Sorry, you guys. Back to the exorcism. Father Michael is looking at this girl again, and she's starting to scratch herself, okay? She is literally scratching the edges of the chair, and so he's expecting her to put on another show. But this is different. This is different. Whatever's inside of her is getting angrier. And he notices that bracelet, and he says, Father Lucas, where'd she get that bracelet? Ask her where she got that bracelet. He demands to know. And the priest says, Rosaria wants to know. And she looks right at Michael and says, the devil gave it to me. And she looks at the priest and says, my father. And so then Michael, getting the clue right here and there, and says, who put that baby in your belly? Who put that baby in? Bambino, bambino. And then the priest, Father Lucas, says, who put that baby in your belly? It was your father. And she starts writhing, flips herself out of the chair. You know, her skirt's up over her legs. She's crawling on all fours, licking her face, coming after Michael. And she says some really raunchy things. And this kind of stuff does happen in exorcism. It does happen in Deliverance. When people are possessed, atypical, not usually perfect possession, people do not come for healing. They do not ask for, oh, thank you, Russ. And I know that rose is from Dad because you don't like me that much. That's from Dad. I had to say thank you to the room again. Okay, folks? When we look at perfect possession, these people do not think anything's wrong with them. They do not think that they're perfectly happy where they are. That's why it's called perfect possession. When we have an atypical possession like this little girl is 16 years old. She doesn't know what's going on. She has no idea why she's cursed. She has no idea what is going on with her. And I'm going to kind of tell you what my experience was at the end of this to just give you a summary, even though we're doing the movie review. So that was accurate. Her actions, her sexuality toward the priest, her sexual invitation and innuendo toward him. And then all of a sudden, she started convulsing. The priest started praying harder over her, and she just snapped out of it like that. Just like that, like nothing. She didn't remember anything. And when Michael and Father Lucas asked her, what do you know? What do you think of? And she said like this. She says, well, and she said this in Italian. Yes, Colin, I have to get to this question in a minute. It's like watching a movie. And I have had a number of people tell me the exact same word. So in this sense, when somebody is under oppression and they are possessed, they see themselves doing things. And for some reason or other, most of the time this is blotted out. They lose big chunks of time. And other times they'll remember, well, I think I was standing on the street corner and I kind of remember I stepped out into traffic, but they don't have a clear memory. It's almost as if they're behind their eyes, but they can't control themselves. So this is very accurate, to the Office of Exorcism, Deliverance, and Healing. And I'm going to take this question real quick from Colin, who asked, can the demon in a session call out individual sins? Oh, this is the fun part. Not only call it out, I'll drop your drawers and tell you exactly what you did and when you did it and who you did it with. We're not talking individual sins. This movie illustrated, Colin, how the demonics watch us 100% of the time. And if you go into a healing or deliverance without repentance and without being absolved of your sins, these demons can dress you down and tell you any sin and every minute of the sin, what you did before and after the sin, and who you did it with. So this is not something you want to do if you've been a bad boy last week and you didn't go repent and get your sins absolved. So yes, they do that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Bernard, Bruno, you made it. Welcome, Bernard. So good to see you. Now, we are now at the second opportunity. Michael goes back to his room, and he still doesn't believe. He still is in a place, in Mary, Mother, and Joseph, please, Jesus, pray for us. Michael's in the place currently with Father Lucas that he wants to believe, but he doesn't believe. He wants to see something. His aim is to prove to Father Lucas that she needs psychiatric help. She needs help. She needs a real doctor, not your mumbo jumbo stuff that, maybe she's got a problem. He says, "Oh, well, you didn't see the strength. You didn't understand that she had knowledge that she had no business knowing. You didn't see that she was speaking English when she has no clue." And he's like, "Oh, come on. Girls her age listen to English songs all the time, right?" He had an excuse and a smart aleck answer for everything. Excuse me, I got to get some water. I remember the good old days when we used to do this, and I used to have a little bit of vino bambino. No, this is water tonight, guys. So, Michael, skeptic, he just is not having it. So Father Lucas says, "Well, tomorrow I've got a good one for you. Be here bright and early." And he's like, "Okay, all right." Gets him out of class, right? He doesn't have to sit there in those boring classes. So Father Lucas, in this part of the story, this is really interesting. They go to the home of a very lovely young woman and her son. And in Italian, she explains to him that, her little boy is being bitten at night. And Father Lucas, being the good, experienced exorcist and priest that he is asking her, "Okay, so your son has, bad dreams and nightmares." He's like, yes. "And you want me to help him?" Yes. And he looks at the little boy and he says, "Something hurt you?" And the little boy shrinks back and he's like, yes. And he said, "Your mother." And he says, he's really hitting it hard. And this is what exorcists have to do. They have to get to the heart of the matter. They have to shock. They have to make sure that they know exactly what's going on. And especially when you have a boy this age. This boy couldn't have been more than 7 years of age. However, this exorcist that trained Father Gary Thomas was so good. He just nailed it. And in the movie, thank you so much, Colin. God bless you. I need people's prayers, so I'll ask you, please pray for me and pray for this ministry, because some days are tough, and I had to segue. Apologies. As we looked at the mother and the boy, Father Lucas said, "I don't believe you." So the mother lifts up the boy's shirt and shows that he's got teeth marks that look like a large animal. This is not a dog. I'm sure there's people who have seen a lot of different teeth marks. This was obviously like a horse or a mule. And we find out later that it was a mule. And then he looks at the mother, "You did this." And she's like, No. She doesn't want to go to jail for hurting your child. And so Father Lucas looks at Michael and he looks at the mother. He says, "Go get me some espresso." And he motions Michael into the bedroom and he picks up the boy's pillow where the boy sleeps. And he motions in Italian and he says, this is it, right? Where you have the nightmares. And the boy says, see. And he pulls out the pillow and reaches his hand in, and he finds, it looked to me like one of these poisonous leopard frogs. It was a very, very unusual frog. And he says, "This is death. This is it." And the boy says, yes. So he takes the frog, opens. In the kitchen, they have almost like what we would call here in America. It's very common in Europe to use fire in the kitchen in these fabulous stoves or anything. And this is what he did. He just threw that frog right in the fire. And he said, "Voila." And he blessed the little boy and said, "That's it." And Michael looked at the little boy, and the little boy looked at him, and he ran in the kitchen and looked at Michael and told his mother and pointed at Michael. He's like, this is creepy. And they leave. And Michael said, he tells Father Lucas, "So that's your bag of tricks?" Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I just got another donation, and I have to say thank you to my audience. Thank you. God bless you, boys. Thank you so much. You guys are blessing me so much tonight. And I do say, if you're currently listening, this is definitely God saying, keep on going. Because I've really struggled coming back to live shows, and I really appreciate this. Marilyn Henderson, good to see you. God bless you. Back to our story. Let's talk about what is real and what is not. In the Office of Healing and Deliverance and Exorcism, yes, priests will go into home. Very rarely. Most of the time, here, especially in America, you must come on to the church, the rectory, somewhere that is holy. It is very rare for a priest to go into your home and provide you with the confession, that sort of thing that is perfectly suited for the parish, the parish hall, the church itself, you know, where the high mass is said. So it's very unusual. However, in a case like this, where it was a mother and a young boy, whereas there may have been, a worry and a fear that this woman was going to be turned in, it was very, very scary for her. So this was Father Lucas's opportunity to show Michael that things happen beyond his knowledge. And if he had had the boy come in for, the healing, deliverance, exorcism prayers, he might have missed attacking it at the source. So he chose to go to the home and he took care of the source, which that doesn't happen very often. I hate to say it, but our European priests are so much more ahead of the game. They call it as they see it and they jump in and they go do it. Our American priests are held to, I'd say they're kind of shackled. I'm sorry, Jesus forgive me, but they are kind of shackled. They're not allowed to do sometimes some of the things that, our priests can do in other countries. So God bless you too, Athena. Thank you. God bless you, boys. We go on and we look at what he pulled out. He pulled out a frog. Is this common? I have to say, and what we see in the Office of Healing, Deliverance, and Exorcism is that God created this world. God created all the creatures. There's only one creature that has intellect, reason, and knowledge, and that's us. Cats, dogs, toads. At any point in time, although God's perfect creatures, God's perfect energy, we don't want to believe our dog can be bad, or a cat can be bad, or a toad can be bad. And intrinsically, if we look at the nature of things by Thomas Aquinas, they are not bad. However, they are fallen like us. They are imperfect. And being in that state allows Satan's minions, his little legionnaires, his little foot soldiers to enter him for a minute and then leave. Just like in the Bible, when the pigs were cast. Boom! Right over the ridge after they were possessed. So this is a good instance to understand that sometimes animals can be used. We don't know how this frog got there. The movie did not explain it, but it does happen. It is possible. And was a full exorcism needed for this boy? The blessing, the reassurance, and what the Father did with this boy showed us that sometimes you do not need hours and hours of a rite. Sometimes you need a specific blessing, a pardoning, and you need to give a boy some special holy water that blesses him and lets him know that he can be nightmare free. He doesn't have to be touched again. So that was really, 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 that was just like, wow. I was so amazed he went to this child's house. And of course, Michael doesn't believe again. Now, as they head back and he drops Father off, they get a call. Rosaria, the beautiful 16-year-old girl, she tried to drown herself. She is strapped to a gurney in the psychiatric ward of the hospital, and they need to go immediately. This is so incredibly sad. And, they don't know if she's tried to commit suicide. They don't know what happened. All they know is that she supportedly, she wants the baby out of her. She put herself in a tub. She tried to drown herself, according to her aunt. She is now strapped. There's really nothing here that they can do, because now that she's under the care of the hospital, the doctors, and this sort of thing, All the priest can do is to provide support. Pray over her, pray with her, pray for her. She's so heavily medicated. She is literally, she's not capable of reacting or responding. And I really want to talk about this some. All right. I hope this isn't a disturbing picture to too many viewers. This poor girl was strapped down, and here we are going to be talking about, familiars, witches, demons, etc., because of the cat and the way the entire scene unfolded. So in this movie, The Rite, we have young Rosario, 16 years old. She's out of it. The priests are literally in the hall. They can't come in. They can't do anything. And Father Lucas looks at Michael, and Michael says, well, what can you do? He says, well, I'm going to wait here, and I'm going to be there with her, and when she wakes up, we're going to continue. Why do priests do this? A lot of people say, well, can a priest just bless you? Can a priest just jump in and start giving you the rite, and, you're all better? You're delivered? You're free of demons? The interesting thing is, we must be present in some way to request healing, to request deliverance, to request the exorcism. It's a very, very rare circumstance. It can happen, but it doesn't really happen, that a priest will agree. And it sometimes can happen in a typical possession where you have a father, you have a mother, you have a spouse, that the person is so far gone and medicated so heavily that they're still fighting the fact that there's something going on, but the spiritual and the mental are taken care of to the extent that a priest can assist by proxy with a husband or a wife or a mother or father. In this case, Rosaria, her father's gone. There's nobody to give any kind of permission. The aunt is watching over her. She's got a baby in her belly that was certified her father's. That was found out that it was her dad, and that was the entrance of this demonic oppression turning into possession for someone. Thank you all for subscribing. I'm hoping you're enjoying this, that you do decide to hit the notifications, so when I get new information that I can give you more information. I do have one question to answer. Thank you so much, Athena. Yes, regular confession is the key, Colin, and it does keep evil at bay. And being on holy ground, you're going to have to expand on that question, because I'm not sure about what you're talking about being on holy ground. This hospital may be on holy ground. God's permissible will has allowed this possession. This possession coming on holy ground will not disable the possession. It will not stop the possession from continuing, because somehow, some way, this was allowed to happen to this young girl, as unfair as it was. And she is not in right reason. There is nobody to give consent other than the aunt, and the aunt does not have the legal right to say, I need an exorcism. This is very powerful. I know that, many cultures do deliverance and do healing and do exorcism differently. And maybe the aunt maybe she had custody of this girl. Custody is not enough. She would have needed to adopt this girl to sign legal consent for this exorcism to be done. So however it was started, the exorcism was started, Rosaria requested the exorcism. Rosaria wanted this. So this was all done because she wanted to be better. So the priest waits in the hall. This is pretty horrific. This is I have another question I have to get to, because I don't want to miss this. Is too powerful a question. Yes, exorcism is usually done only on holy ground for the most part, only consecrated ground exorcisms, yes. However, exorcism of place is done on any kind of ground and any type of principality or power, because the office of the priest, as we know in our Catholic faith, a priest stands in the place of Christ Jesus and can take their office and exercise a place. That said, The next question here, we're talking about exorcism. Can a rabbi perform an exorcism? It's completely different when a rabbi does it. A Jewish rabbi does pray prayers of deliverance, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. That's what happens when you get old, Colin. Yes, they do a deliverance, and they have all sorts of names for their interesting demons that oppress them. However, it is one of those things that it's not common. It's not common. They don't see the full out blown possessions like a lot of the Catholics or other Christian denominations do, but they do have their oppressions, and they do have their hauntings and things like that. So they perform a deliverance. They do a liberation for the person. So yes, they do have specific prayers. Now, in this scene, what we're looking at, this is the beginning of the end of this poor girl. Because she is strapped down, and because the baby is being monitored, they believe she's safe. Her aunt and the priest are down the hall. They are nowhere near her. They cannot get to her. And the scene opens up where the baby's heartbeat. If you've ever seen or had an EKG and you see the lines going up and down so fast because the heart is almost stopped as it's fluttering up. It's like beat, stop, beat. It's very erratic. It's very scary. You know the baby is in distress, and either the baby is drowning or it's going to die. Her toes start twitching terribly. This cat jumps on her and starts sniffing her. It's almost as if either A, the cat knows she's going to die, or the cat is temporarily possessed to wake her up, to literally, I hate to say this, but cause her more pain. And this is what demons do. This is very real. This stuff does happen. It's very horrific. It's very disgusting. It's very awful, especially when it happens with a pregnant woman. And this poor girl went through hell. The baby was literally killed in her womb, causing her to bleed internally. There was nothing she could do. She thrashed and writhed. It's almost like she couldn't cry out. She couldn't scream. And by the time anybody heard her thrashing and screaming, she had literally bled to death right there where she laid. Father Lucas calls Michael. They're there, they're praying, and Michael is so worried about Father Lucas, and he's like, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. I told you she needed psychiatric help, Father. I mean, what are you going to do? And Father Lucas looks at him and he says, well, I'm just going to pray. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. Father Lucas is devastated. The aunt is crying. Father Lucas is he's so heartbroken. He tells Michael, he says, Michael, you have a soul. You have a soul. Protect it with your life. Guard it. Do not let anything happen to that soul. Michael's in shock. He's like, how did this happen? Why was nobody with her? Michael is still of the belief that there's something psychiatric here and it has nothing to do with anything supernatural or spiritual. And as I've said, the incidents that happen can and do happen. How does God allow this? God, I don't know. I can't answer that, how this happens. I do know that it can happen. I do know that, and I cannot say that this was a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice or a satanic offering, and that's why she was impregnated by her father. I can't say that because I do not know the case. I do not know. And this could be a made-up case for this movie. I can tell you this stuff happens, and it's horrific. And it does jar priests, and it does cause them to sob, because his father Lucas told Michael, I failed her. I failed her. And that is the most human emotion when we think that we've done everything for someone and still the worst happens. However, we have to draw upon that faith and know that everything that happens is for God's glory. Everything. And the reason that she may have died, as horrible as it may sound, may have been so that Michael could take his final vows and become a priest and save all the people that he saved. He might have left the priesthood and said, oh, this is just psychiatric mumbo jumbo. We don't know. Because in the movie, she died. Michael is just, he's shaking his head. He doesn't know what to do with this. So he calls his friend, the journalist. The journalist is in shock. So, you ready to talk? You ready to talk about this poor girl and the death and the exorcism and everything else? He says, yes. I want you to write everything down. I want you to record this and let people know what's really going on, because I don't think this is right. Michael still wants to blame something or someone. He's not on board that this is real at all. And he spills his guts. He spills his guts. As they talk, she reveals more about what happened to her with her brother and how scared she was of her brother. Michael reveals to her how his mother gave him a card with a guardian angel that said, I will never leave your side. And the death of his mother shook him so bad, he still remembered everything about that day that she killed herself, about the funeral, everything. She was his everything. And now, as he's wrestling with his faith, he can't believe that he's talking to a journalist about things he doesn't believe. Father Lucas, meanwhile, goes back home. In the movie, his lack of faith drives something in him and opens himself up. Father Lucas is not himself anymore. Father Lucas has become a different person. He's not bathing, he's not showering, he's not dressing. And he walks to the park with no underwear, his cassock and a hat, and is overlooking the water, and a little girl bringing her little doll, her little bambina, to him to be blessed. He looks down at this little girl and asks, oh, that's your little bambina. And she's like, see, Father. And he hauls off and smacks her. And we know at that time in the movie that Father Lucas is gone for. He has, for whatever reason in the movie, they want to show, as you're seeing right here on this image, that Father Lucas is not Father Lucas. He has stepped aside, and either through an act of faith, just doesn't believe in his office. Maybe that was the invitation. However, he is temporarily possessed, and he doesn't know what's going on. Michael, meanwhile, has gotten a call. His father's in the hospital, and he has to go home immediately. He doesn't know that Father Lucas is in distress. So his educator that we saw at the beginning says, okay, we'll arrange all the flights, everything else. Just get your hotel. You're getting ready to go. He goes to the hotel. This is really interesting, and this really shows how the demonic is constantly doing everything it can to take good people off their mark. And how the angels, too, are fighting so hard to bring us right back into faith, right back into line. It's just kind of mind-blowing. So as we see Michael here in the corner holding a book, the movie is going to take Michael to the hotel. where he attempts to get a hold of his father because he wants to let him know, I'm going to be home. The operator, the Italian operator, tells him, just hold on, I'll connect you. And he's waiting and ringing. His father answers the phone. He says, Dad, are you okay? He says, Michael? Michael? He says, yeah, Dad, it's me. I'm sorry. I'm on my way home. He says, Michael, where am I? He says, Dad, you're in the hospital. I'm going to be there soon. I'm just waiting on a flight. In the background, we hear a TV playing that says all the flights have been canceled because of this huge storm. So he says, Dad, just relax. I'll be right there. He says, Michael, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what's going on. And then it cuts out. And then a minute later, not a minute, maybe 30 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, the operator comes on and says, can I help you? He says, yes, this is Michael. I was just talking. I called, to find out about my dad, and I'm doing my best to get home. He says, your dad? He says, yes, my father. He says, oh, your father died 4 hours ago or 6 hours ago. And Michael says, no, he didn't. I was just talking to him on the phone. My father's alive. He says, no, he gave him the exact date of his father's death. And Michael says, what? What? He was in shock. He hangs up the phone. He looks out the window, and there's snow on the ground. Michael goes to investigate. God bless you, Christian. Yes, someone's asking for prayers. I will pray for you, Christian, and add your intentions to my prayers. We always got to pray for each other, folks. Don't ever forget that. Michael is literally stepping into a different reality. He walks down the stairs, walks into snow, and he sees a mule with red eyes. He's like, what the heck is this? And he's like thinking, what's going on? So he calls a journalist and he says, you're not going to believe what I saw. And I just talked to my dad and he's dead and I don't know what to think of this. And she says, what? What's going on? He says, you got to take me somewhere. So the next morning, he and the journalist, Michael and his journalist friend, they go to the little boy's house where Father Lucas took that frog out. He wants to know what that little boy said. And the mother says, what do you mean? What do you mean? What? And so she asked her little boy, she says, the priest would like to know, what you were telling me. Can I tell him? And she tells Michael, my son said that your father was going to die. And he looks at the boy, he looks at the mother, he looks at the journalist, and they just leave. They got to go find Father Lucas because they got to make sense of this somehow. There is no making sense of the preternatural. You will not do it. You will not do it. Nothing can reason what preternatural beings can do. There is no reason. And in the case of this movie and showing how Michael stepped into a snowy scene and saw something, I call that it's a very common thing that happens sometimes, either before a bad possession case or just before one ends. You may take a step or see something that makes no sense to you whatsoever, and you may smell and feel the snow, and you may see and actually feel the breath of this mule, and then you turn around and it's just not there, and you're like, and you feel like somebody just dunked you in ice water because you have no idea what you just saw. You have no idea. Your spidey senses are tingling, right? And you're just like, you don't know. This is where Michael's at. He is in absolute confusion why he's seeing, why he's sensing, and getting to talk to his dead father. And guess what? Father Lucas is not Father Lucas anymore. He gets to see Father Lucas, and Father Lucas is looking at himself in the mirror. And he says, Michael, I don't know what's going on. You lock me in the room and you call this exorcist. So he gave him the number for an exorcist to call. Michael is calling. This exorcist is out of town. There's nobody there. There's nobody there at the Vatican. Everybody's out of town for the holiday. Gone. Michael doesn't know what to do. So he calls his journalist and they sit there and says, I don't know what to do. The father's bad. He's gone. He knows there's something wrong with him. We need an exorcist. And she says, Michael, why are you here? He's like, well, I'm in the class because, I don't want to have to pay the money. She says, no, why are you really here? Welcome to my latecomers. Welcome, Billy. And he is absolutely, he's beside himself. They can't get a hold of an exorcist for Father Lucas. Michael goes up to talk to Father Lucas again. And Father Lucas, when Michael says, Father, are you okay? He looks at him and says, Father Lucas isn't here anymore. It's just you and me. And Michael's like, what is going on? He is freaking out. And in a demonic voice, he answers him. And he says, I've been waiting for you. This is so classic, in a different voice, in a different posture, and very mocking. And this is, what I kind of describe in the videos that I'm doing on narcissism. The vanity of these demons, they will get right in your face. And in this instant, we know that Michael's up against something he's never encountered. How can a priest that he knows and he respects be talking to him like that? How can he be looking at him like that? So he leaves him in the room. He runs downstairs to tell the journalist, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to leave. We got to go find this exorcist. They leave, they go to the Vatican, and they come back. All the crosses are turned upside down. It looks like somebody had a heyday in Father Lucas's flat. They don't know what to make of it. So Michael goes up again and he starts talking to him. And this is when Father Lucas starts looking completely different. Yes, exactly, Colin. They are absolute tricksters. Father Lucas, his once very, nice, clear complexion, for an older priest, is now mottled and gray, and it's starting to look like pasty. And Michael's looking at him and saying, are you okay, Father? And Father looks at him and says, I'm here. Father's not. And he's like, what? He says, oh, you're my follower, Michael. And Michael's like, I don't follow you. He says, oh, you've always followed me. Reminding Michael that all the temptations and everything else, the devil is taking credit for. The devil's really good at that. He thinks he's it. That's part of his narcissism. So he says, hey, Michael, close the door so we're not going to be disturbed. And all of a sudden, the door slams shut. And Michael's like, okay, what's going on now? He's starting to freak out because Michael doesn't know what to make of this. He's never been in a situation like this at all. And Father Lucas from the chair looks at him and says, did you enjoy our last chat? And Michael says, what? He says, he repeated exactly what his father said to him on the phone. Michael is floored. He doesn't know what to do. He can't get out the door. The journalist is on the other side of the door, and he's sitting there talking to a demon, which Father Lucas warned him, do not do. He doesn't have a choice at this point. He has to do something. And the demon just is bragging, telling him exactly how his father died at 420. And how his father was miserable and all alone. How he abandoned him. He left his father to die. And he starts speaking in different voices and different languages. And mocking Michael, saying, you can't stand up to anybody. You can't even stand up to your own father. Michael is going to go to battle because he doesn't know what to do. So Father Lucas is starting to growl and he's contorting and he's basically Like I said, he's not Father Lucas. And, we need to talk about this kind of stuff because, a lot of people think that, yeah, well, this is kind of Hollywood theatrics. They growl. My son growls. My 2-year-old growls. My husband growls. My kid growls. That's kind of normal. The kind of growling they're doing here is not a human growl. It is a guttural growl. It's something, if you had like injured a big animal and you were poking it with a stick, that's the kind of growl. It doesn't sound human at all. There's nothing human left in it. And in this movie, they did a very good job showing how this priest was possessed in this movie. Like I said, the movie, loosely based on fact, mostly fiction. But he tells Michael this, you're not going to win this. You're going to follow me the rest of your life. I've always been with you. And he says, no. Michael says, no, God's here. You can't, take my exorcist. God is here. And then this is when Father Lucas, it starts getting real. God is not here. Angelina, the journalist there, she's listening behind the room going, oh my gosh, it's getting real. She's freaking out, especially when he starts speaking in the different voices. And Michael has to make the decision. He's going to have to perform the rite. He doesn't have a choice. There is no one coming to help him. He can't reach his instructor. He can't reach anyone. So it's going to have to be him. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Anne and Billy and everyone, for joining us tonight and hanging out. I realize I'm going a little over. However, there's so much to unpack about this movie, and it's so powerful because good is always there with Michael, no matter what, no matter the horrors that he's experiencing. So Michael tells Angie, get in here. I need your help. He wraps a rosary around his hand and he tells her, don't look at it. Just say amen to everything I do. And in Deliverance and exorcising, when a priest has backup, many times we may pray the rosary. We may be praying as he has her saying amen. It's an agreement. It is the consensual prayer offered up by our guardian angels who stand before the throne of God and at our sides at all time. So when we're praying, our guardian angels are carrying this prayer. So he is having her, Angelina, pray with him for Father Lucas. And it gets bad. And yes, this stuff happens. Always be on our toes, Colin. We can never not be on our toes. In this sense, as Michael is beginning the exorcism, right? The face changes. The face contorts. They manage to tie him down and continue the rite. Halfway through, Father Lucas jumps up and starts choking the journalist Angelina. He's got the strength of 500 men. Michael isn't going to stop him. Nobody's going to stop him. And then Michael, in his fear, as he's watching and he's wrestling with faith, and he's on the ground because when Father jumped out of the chair, he smashed Michael to the ground to start choking her. He realizes that he believes. He believes. He's wrestling with his faith right there, trying to think, here I am just praying the prayer, but his mind takes him back to his mother, knowing how tormented she was and how driven she was to hate herself into that worthlessness. And that angel that she says, Michael, this angel will never leave you. So he says, I believe. I believe. And that's when Father Lucas starts losing it. It's like, you believe in what? You believe in what? This is where Michael's full strength of his full office and priesthood step into him fully and erase any doubts, anything whatsoever, and he continues. Father Lucas crumbles. They tie him back to the chair. And Michael successfully, over and over prays over him, demanding to know the name of the demon. And this is when, at the end of this exorcism, Father Lucas screams the name, the head beast. Mr. B is what I'm going to call him, because I don't say demon names. We ain't going to give them no credit. Ever. Not on this show. So as Michael successfully casts this demon out of Father Lucas, his color returns to normal. And Angelina says, this is what you came to do. This is what you were born to do. This is what you were always meant to do. Michael comes back and checks on the priest. They clean up his flat. They rearrange everything for him. Father Lucas had no idea what was happening, and he didn't remember much of it. And in the sense of, the movie presenting the truth, it's very, very rare that an exorcism will only go for a few hours and somebody is delivered. In this sense, yes, it does happen, but it is pretty rare. Usually it takes more than one session. Many people say, well, if Jesus did it and boom, he cast him out right away, why can't we? We can. However, it is God's permissible will. It is the level of our faith. And it's also those factors that we cannot see around us that could be affecting so many people in powerful ways. Because this is how God allows the worst things in our lives to raise us up to the highest heights. And I don't want any one of you to forget that ever. Ever, ever, ever. Because when we look at the peace and the joy that Michael was able to achieve by freeing his teacher, his mentor, this allowed both of them to rejoin fully that what they're called to do, which is to be Christ in a way that is going to free so many souls. We watched the movie end with Michael going back to the United States, and he takes the collar. He passes his theology class, and he becomes a priest. And the journalist stays in touch with him, and the movie credits roll out. This entire movie was well done. It was well researched. The facts, as they were presented for the most part, this was one of the most amazing movies to be presented factually. And I think that's why, so many Catholic reviewers said, we're going to take this and we're going to run with this and say, hey, this is a good movie to see, because we don't often get this much of a factual perspective on what priests actually do, what they have to go through, the hours they have to keep, the places they have to enter into, and how they wrestle. They wrestle with faith, but they continue to believe, they continue to walk forward, they continue to go after what it is that makes them a servant. So all in all, if you do get an opportunity to see this movie, it is a very good movie. It was my honor, my pleasure to parse all these interesting facts and things out. If anyone has any last questions, please, I'd like to address them right now, because I have already kept you so much. I've been very, very long tonight, and I want to thank you very, very much for all of you, your prayers, and know that I pray for my audience too, because you are a great part of why I do what I do. If you have not subscribed to Patreon, I am going to be providing some very interesting private information as I'm learning about Patreon, and video will be coming up here in this next week before Christmas. I want to remind each and every one of you that there is the beautiful divine spark of Christ that lives within you from God. And if you haven't been baptized, I pray that you're going to consider why you would get baptized, and know that I'm going to pray that for you, because there is such joy in knowing that no matter where we lose our faith, where we trip and fall, God is always going to have his special messenger, the angel, waiting right by our side to help us get up, lift ourselves up, and be there. Never forget the battle's already been won. God bless each and every one of you. Until next time, and there will be next time, and I will probably be seeing you after the first of the year. Thank you so much for all the donations tonight, all your care, all your prayers, and everything else. I want to end with one of my favorite Bible passages, and I'm going to say, God bless each and every one of you. Vivo Cristo Rey. And may your Advent and Christmas holiday be a service to all that don't deserve it, because none of us deserve anything. God bless you all, and good night. For our wrestling is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the world of this darkness, and against the spirits of wickedness in high places. God bless and keep. Good night.